And we welcome you to Futbol Fridays. Yes, it is a Tuesday. You are looking at your calendar correctly, but it is the first edition of Futbol Fridays here on Hornet Radio. Ryan Osborne, joined by Joe Pavlenko, Mark Pavlovich, and Corey Nalen. We welcome you to Sherbeck Field on the campus of Fullerton College. And Mark, Fullerton College versus Yavapai. That is our matchup here tonight, as Fullerton College looks to continue their momentum in Southern California by first playing a team from out of state.
Well, it's going to be interesting. This is a team without two All-Americans. Maybe we will have more All-Americans, but when we start, Ryan, best offensive player in Southern California, maybe all of California and in the nation, and one of the best defenders in the nation were here last year. It's a new crew, new team. Let's see what happens.
It's going to be interesting to see Yavapai, as they are quite the formidable force in Division I in the NJCAA. That's right, if you heard or thought to yourself, isn't it the 3C2A? No. Arizona competes in a different organization and association for community college sports, as Yavapai will be going from right to left and Fullerton College from left to right. The Rough Riders with the ball momentarily before it gets taken away by Fullerton College and Cesar Marquez. Marquez trying to move the ball up the park. He brings it over to Juan Luis Quintana, who is dispossessed, but a foul at mid-park gives possession to the Hornets. And Fullerton College in the navy blues tonight, once again attacking from left to right. Once again, I'm Ryan Osborne. Joseph Pavlenko over to my right. You just heard Mark Pavlovich here on the call with me. And Corey Nayland over to our left, manning one of our cameras, as the night starts to settle across Fullerton College in what is the first home contest of the season for the Fullerton College Hornets.
They've played some strong competition this year, so early in the season, Greg's got them battle tested, and I think this is another one of those games that will do nothing but help them when they get into conference play.
Marquez, Juan Luis Quintana, joined by Brandon Acevedo, all watching on as this ball goes over towards the left side, where it will be picked up by Maximiliano Ionita, as he is the captain here tonight for the Rough Riders. Ball picked up, checked over towards the right by Evan Yole. Yole looking for Marquez. Scooped away from him. It gets past Giovanni Sanchez. Sanchez trying to find someone, gets turned over to Ionita. And it will finally find its way back over to Marquez. Brand new attacking trio for Fullerton College. As Mark mentioned, you lose an All-American on your front three, Mark. And it's going to be interesting to see how Fullerton College is able to manufacture offense, considering just how much they lose in Misael Gonzalez. But, Mark, when you look at the stats, yes, his season was incredibly impressive. As this ball is checked towards the right side, here's a chance on a break. Just getting a piece of it is Brandon Acevedo. And out there in time is Ionita. The captain is able to cut down the angle and intercept that and make no harm there for Yavapai.
Well, you're doing a lot of comparison this season to what we saw last season on the field, and we're seeing some echoes, let's say, of last season in the attacking third here from Fullerton, with the high-pressure offense just trying to drive it home and find the back of the net.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned that, Joe. You look at that attacking trio. You had Misael joined by Hayden Kenny as well, who is not playing tonight for the Hornets as they watch on. This ball gets scooped over towards the right, towards Jacob Vincent. Vincent trying to get it up, just couldn't get it to a teammate, and it gets intercepted by the Hornets. Ball down towards the middle, goes over towards Quintana. Quintana turns it over. Finally, it's poked back over to Cananisho. Cananisho looking forward once more. Away from him, it will fly. And finally into the awaiting foot of Michael Ochoa. Swung over far side. Hornets take it away. Cisco Torres. Torres looking on. Now trying to watch there. Jair Vargas, part of that new starting 11 for Fullerton College. This ball goes all the way back to Ionita. 8-6, that's where Yavapai finished last year. But, Mark, if you look at the overall rankings, and I know that you're big into the rankings across the United States, Yavapai was ranked pretty highly.
Yeah, they were. And, of course, when we start off this season, El Camino, who walked away, with the CCC or the 3C2A championship, one of the top teams in Southern California. Right now, Fullerton ranked 11th.
Here's a chance for the Hornets right in front. It's Marquez. He tries to drop it back, and it finally goes off the foot of Marquez once more and taken away from him. Trying to watch on is Acevedo. Acevedo, we'll see that one taken from him and finally sent out by Vargas.
Joe, you talked about last year compared to this year. I mean, one of the things you had last year, you had an All-American that did 90% of the scoring, only 7 assists during the season. All-American as a defender. You don't have that this year, but maybe you'll have balance this year.
Yeah, and towards the end of the season, that All-American was became a little bit to the detriment of Fullerton College, because by the end of the season, everybody had seen the tape, everybody had seen how he can perform, what he can do on the field, and they just triple team, quadruple teamed him, and they didn't give him an inch to breathe on the field.
And it was tough for Misa, too, because that's the thing, Joe. You look at that playoff matchup, he was able to do some damage for Fullerton College, but it was all about trying to find not just secondary scoring. I mean, every team is looking for secondary scoring, but it's about how you change tactically as the game moves along. And Fullerton College did a good job against Santa Barbara. However, Santa Barbara just figured out a way to spread out Fullerton's offense to where Fullerton couldn't get the ball into their dynamic score towards the end of that match.
Yeah, and one name, we're talking about the names that we do not see or not seen on the sheet this season. One name that we're seeing return is Hayden Kenny, and he did make a stamp. He was a good player, was able to put his name on the score sheet for the season. But Misael was such a dominant force in the attacking portion, I can't speak tonight, in the attacking portion of the team, that he just overshadowed all the other forwards on the team.
Yeah, and you look at Hayden Kenny, as we mentioned here tonight, not getting the start and won't get an entrance in this one. But part of it is what we've talked to Greg Aviles about for quite a while. We've asked him before, okay, how come we're seeing so many different starting lineups to begin your games earlier in the season? And he says, very plain and simple, he wants every single person on the roster to get an opportunity to get in game action and be able to see what he has starting-wise and also what he has in his second, third, and fourth units. It's going to be crucial for him going on towards the latter half of the season, and especially in Orange Empire Conference play, to be able to see what exactly he has in those second and third units. So that's why you're seeing a different starting lineup than you saw the other night. This ball gets swung over just past the right foot of Cananisho. Cananisho now to his right. He's going to swing it over towards, if you're watching online, what is the 30-yard line here at House Scherbeck Field on the campus of Fullerton College. Ball goes out, and now Acevedo will walk over and toss it in. Fullerton last year, 18-3-2. And getting one of the top 4 rankings in the state of California by the end of the season. We may see a sub here in just a couple of moments, as it does indeed look like Fullerton's going to bring in Evan Courtney. And Courtney is going to enter for Juan Luis Quintana. Ball down towards the right. Still fighting for it is Courtney. He gets his first touch of the match and finally does scoot away from him. Cananisho looking for a teammate. Doesn't have anyone immediately. And finally, it'll go off the thigh of Jair Vargas. And Vargas will send that one out.
I'm going to drop a trivia question. Everybody think about it here. I want you to all wonder and come up with your own answers on why the game is called soccer. There is a history behind that term. We know in European countries and in Latin America, it's called football. We know why for that too, but take a hard look. It's interesting to see the history of the sport. Little trivia games like that just makes you want to know more about the sport. So give it a think, give it a look. Yeah, if you go ahead and actually have to go and use a computer, that's fine. If not, we'll tell you a little about it later.
Futbol Fridays come with homework now, Ryan?
It does.
They do.
All right, I'm quitting.
Here's a chance for the Hornets. Here's Courtney on the right side. He takes a shot, and he will score. You saw it on your screen. There he goes, top bin, right side, and Fullerton College is on the board. Less than 12 minutes into this match, and Fullerton has the 1-0 lead with Courtney.
This is a great way to build some momentum starting the season. We're seeing Yavapai College. One could say their defenders were doing a great job at gumming up Fullerton's attacking third, acting like a bunch of goo sticking to that ball, not letting it anywhere near that goal. And you see Fullerton able to find the back of the net.
So Fullerton College, just like you said, Joe, they're able to find the back of the net, and that's huge because if you're facing a team from out of state, again, if you are just tuning in, Yavapai is from the Prescott, Arizona side of things. Just, what, we'll call that about 45, maybe 50 minutes north of Arizona, or of Phoenix, Arizona.
We'll call it too far and too hot.
It is quite warm out there at the current moment. And when you look at Yavapai, Mark mentioned it earlier, they have a high ranking. They have played very well in the NJCAA, and they are looking to start their season off against quality opponents in Southern California. If you're Fullerton College, you're thrilled to be up 1-0 in the early going. And just to recap that, that ends up being a goal credited to Evan Courtney with 33:46 left on the clock. The assist goes to Jair Vargas.
Well, realize with 33 minutes to go, there has been no real threat against Fullerton. The defense has played well so far. So we'll see if they will change this team from Arizona. Maybe a formation or an attacking formation to open things up.
It is interesting that you mentioned that, Mark, because when you look at it, Fullerton College has had about, we'll say at this point, 75% of the possession in this match so far. We're about 13 minutes in, and Yavapai has not had possession past the midfield line into the attacking third yet.
Yeah, and you watch them offensively, Ryan. They move the ball well. They pass the ball well. I'm going to give a lot of love to the defenders for Fullerton, and you know I'm one of these guys that, be it this football or the football that we call on the weekends, you know, you win it with defense. And we'll see if that's what Greg has built this year, that team that gets that one goal and hangs on tight.
Second watching on as that goes over towards Sherman's side. Finally lands with Acevedo. Little back footer, trying to find Marquez, but doesn't do so successfully. Taken away by Lama. Ian Lama now with the turnover. They're going to switch it to the far side, looking for Marquez. They can't get it to him in time. Finally goes off the foot of Yavapai Sanchez, and the Hornets commit a foul, and it will go the way of Yavapai. Yavapai in the all-white uniforms. Tough to see on the camera, but they do have stripes of, we'll call it very light gray across the center chest, and their numerals in gold, outlined in forest green. For Fullerton College, it is the home navy blue kits that they are adorned in with the numerals in white, no outline. Beautiful crest showcasing Buzzy, one of the best in Southern California that we have heard all around in the Orange Empire Conference. Everyone loves that badge as Courtney brings it over, left-footed, trying to get it over towards the middle. Here's a chance, a shot goes wide. Getting a piece of that was Marquez, and he floated it past the left post.
This is one of the things that I think I said maybe to everybody in this booth ad nauseum last year, but those are the kind of shots, maybe they don't count for anything, but you have to take them to keep the goalie and the defenders on their toes. You don't take that shot, you're not making yourself a threat, and you're letting the defense know they can just stop you whenever they want.
Thomas Gomez is going to come in here in just a moment, along with David Garcia. And taking a seat will be Yavapai Sanchez, and also sitting down will be the guy who got the assist on the goal, Jair Vargas.
Now, correct me if I'm mistaken, Evan Courtney is a returning player this year. Name sounds familiar.
You are very correct, as he had some very quality minutes, and by quality, we don't just mean the overall quantity. He did play a lot for Fullerton last year, especially in OEC play, but he did also have some scoring that he logged in, as he was part of that secondary scoring wave for the Hornets. Now he's trying to become a part of the top scoring wave for Fullerton College, and he has the 3rd goal of the season for the Hornets.
And kind of an example of what just putting 1 point on the board does for the team. This is now starting to look like the Fullerton College football team that we've seen the last 2 years. They got one in the back of the net. You see them getting a little more aggressive. They're turning those attacks on a dime, high pressure.
Ball goes out, and it will be possession going to Yavapai. But like you said, Joe, it's very reminiscent to what we saw the back half of last season. Their passes are connecting. They're getting into transition. But even more importantly, Joe, is I think it goes back to what Mark was talking about. They haven't allowed quality possession past the midfield line to this point, and a lot of that is because if you look at that back four, as Yavapai is moving up the park, that back four for Fullerton College is extremely active.
Yeah, I agree with you, Ryan. I think that's a great observation on your part.
Trying to set the trap. That's what Fullerton does very well, as this is intercepted for a moment. Scooped away off the foot of Cisco Torres and out of play.
Now, I know you want to keep it out of your half of the field, but was giving over possession versus maybe intercepting the pass or isolating somebody to get that pass really worth it in there?
You know, it's interesting you mentioned that, Joe, because there are a lot of people who will argue, okay, yes, you do give up possession in that part of the field, but you're also allowing your midfielders to have the chance to get back. You give them a little bit of time. Now they can reset themselves and mark the guy that they're supposed to coming out of that throw-in. Checked over towards Gomez. He gets tripped.
So it's another example of what people would like to call, and I hate saying this, the time wasting in soccer, where when you actually look at it as somebody who's played the game or somebody who's familiar with the game, sending the ball out, maybe spending an extra 2 seconds on the ground, gives your guys a second to recover, catch their breath, and maybe get into position.
Fullerton College seeing the ball go flying out of the park. Clock stoppage at 27:35, or it should stop at 27:35. They have not stopped the clock to our left yet. There is an injury timeout for 2 different players on the right side of the park, one of which is the captain for Yavapai, the goalkeeper, Maximiliano Ionita. And for Fullerton College, if I'm not mistaken, it is Acevedo. So Acevedo trying to get over to that ball in time and just wasn't able to find it before he found the collision with Ionita.
You know, guys, when you were talking, Joe, and you talked about slowing things down, Ryan, you brought up the midfielders. But if you watch the defenders are very active being part of the attack for the Hornets. They are crossing midfield. They're going down, if you're looking at the numbers on the field, approximately where the 40, 35-yard line is. So you have more attackers from this Fullerton team. And let's put it this way. That's going to keep the attackers from the other team from leaking out, trying to get an advantage, making it a foot race, coming back up the field. Sometimes the best defense is a very strong offense, at least in the first half. We've seen that from Fullerton. I'm very impressed with Greg is pushing his defenders so high up to run the attack by them.
Well, and we had some, if you paid attention to soccer, some pretty high-profile soccer happen over the summer in the Olympics with what the women's team did. And my sister and I talking about some of those games, some of those midfielders, those halfbacks. My sister referring to them as whole field players, and her favorite on the team, Trinity Rodman, talking about how as a forward, she also chose during that tournament to be a full field player as a forward, which is typically not something you see them do. But that's kind of the job of a halfback or a midfielder over there is, I hope you like running, because you're going to be running up and down the entire length of the field.
Well, one of the things, too, that a lot of people don't realize is the different types of midfielders that they have across the game of football, or soccer as we call it here in the United States. You have your controlling mids, your attacking mids, defensive mids, and then you also have different wingers that are going to be responsible for, like you said, Joe, covering from essentially 18-yard box to 18-yard box, depending on what the team needs.
Buffalo wings are my favorite.
Ball on the right side as Fullerton is going to get their first corner of this match. Everyone moving around for Fullerton. Evan Courtney now going right next to Ionita. Swung over towards the center. Piece of it. That goes off of Yole, and it will go out wide left. No substitution in on the far side for Yavapai. Both goalkeepers for Yavapai on the reserve side were getting themselves warmed up just in case Ionita wasn't able to continue in this match, but he did get up and is playing on. And that is good to see because what you want to see in these types of matchups, especially if it's an out-of-state versus out-of-state Fullerton College, Arizona type matchup, you want to see both of these teams at full strength so you can get an accurate description in your own mind of where the competition lies and where specifically your team matches up against teams from out of state.
Well, and especially when you're getting an injury on the field and it's your goalie. That is, I'd like to liken them to the quarterback in an American football game. Your field general is essentially going down, and that's kind of dangerous. That back half of the field is theirs, and they direct traffic back there.
Yeah, and I think too often people look at goalkeepers and they just think they saved the ball, and that's it. As this is a handball going against Fullerton College, right down the middle of the park on the Yavapai side of things. But I think all too often people will look around and say, oh, goalkeeper just uses their reflexes and takes away angles and they get their hand on the ball and that's all they do. But no, if you watch the goalkeeping position, you listen to goalkeepers, have conversations with them, or maybe even goalkeeping coaches, what you'll understand more is what Joe just mentioned a few moments ago. They are like the quarterback. They are calling out signals. They are calling out spacing. There's a lot of communication between your goalkeeper and your back line. You're making sure that your wings and your center backs are set in the right spot. You're also controlling the pace of play. And if you do get the ball, you have the opportunity to slow things down or speed it up, depending on what style your team likes to play. This ball is swung over towards the right. It's going to go just a little bit out in front of Thomas Gomez. He tries to get to it, but can't in time. Gomez, one of the goal scorers for Fullerton College in the first game, trying to add to his ledger here. Left-hand side of the park, it goes right towards the sideline where it would be picked up by Michael Ochoa and then turned over.
I'd say that was a good attack from Yavapai, but didn't make Fullerton feel like they're in any serious danger, but I think it's starting to see a good little barometer for how Fullerton's defense is going to handle under pressure.
Fullerton College, left to right. Now they're going to send over Nathan Giles. Giles getting a new number this year, tosses it in. The best throw-in guy for the Hornets is that one just deflects away. Gets away from one of the captains this year in Kyle Sherman. Sherman, of course, getting a lot of minutes for Fullerton College in Orange Empire Conference play last year. And he gets a chance to be one of the 3 captains on the field for Fullerton getting the start tonight. Sub in for Fullerton College as taking a seat will be Evan Courtney. So he gets a chance to come in. Less than 2 minutes later, he gets on the board and opens the scoring in the 12th minute of play. Pedro Delgado will enter for him with just under 21 minutes left to play in the first half.
What'd you say Greg had what on the team here, Ryan? 44?
If I remember correctly, it was 44 from what we were told. It was, the specific quote was well over 40.
Okay.
Far side, Yavapai, the Rough Riders trying to get something going here, looking offensive as they try and swing it back towards the near side, watching on and not able to get to the ball in time. Will end up being Jacob Vincent. Clock stops here as a card is going to come out, and it will be shown.
I just got corrected by one of our viewers at home. My sister chastised me for ruining her quote. It's box to box, not full field player.
Yeah, I was a little interested in that too, because when you bring up Rodman would be down there in the defensive end, as we have already talked about her. And next thing you know, great deal of speed. That's one thing we keep forgetting in soccer. Can't teach speed. Boy, if you have somebody that can play and move the way she did, doesn't matter where you put her on the field, she's going to be a threat.
just like Fullerton's attacking third, attacking 3. We're seeing them starting to turn on the gas, turn on attacks, have that acceleration. As Corey Nalen would say, they're starting to show some get-to-itiveness when they're trying to get to that ball.
Giles trying to mark this. Cananisho sees it away from him. Now it will fly all the way back to the waiting foot of Max Ron. Ron sees this one checked away from him. The attempt is there on goal and placed there by Andres Pulido. But Pulido was offside, and the flag goes up, which gives Fullerton the ball. You were saying, Mark?
Oh, I was just going to agree with you, Ryan. I looked at that. He was just a little head on a step. Looked like a nice play, but he just passed that defender before the ball was passed to him.
Just a few moments ago, actually prior to the offside, Pulido did get a yellow card, so he gets a booking in the 25th minute of play. And that is the only one to this point. Ball gets away from Kyle Sherman, but it will stay with Fullerton College as they throw in quickly. Sherman tries to go towards the top of the box. It gets away from Garcia. Garcia trying to catch up to it with Sherman, trying to box anyone in. Can't do so successfully as it gets slipped away from 2. Now Fullerton gets it back, looking for Garcia. Little slip there, gets past 2, finally over towards Yol, and he intercepts. And here's where that comes into play. What you were talking about earlier, Joe, is he kicks that ball out of bounds or makes sure it deflects out of bounds, and it's intentional. Yes, it's a desperation because you're trying to get that intercept, but it's twofold because right behind him was no one. Plain and simple, Fullerton College was playing up. Their back four was pinched up as well to join the offensive attack. And if Vincent gets that ball and turns on his heel, he has a good 40 yards that he could have run. The desperation comes in. You swing the ball out of bounds. Yes, it's an athletic play, but there's intention to it.
Well, I thought you were going to be talking about something else entirely, Ryan. I thought you were going to be talking about with that slip on the field. This field is 2 years old. And we were walking on it, setting up some of the camera gear today, and we could tell that it wasn't as fresh and springy as it was last year, and we kind of made some comments about how could that affect not just games for Futbol Fridays, but even for the football games that happen on Saturdays here on the field. With some of that give and slip in the field with the turf.
Near side, taken up by Vincent. Jacob Vincent with a little bit of room. He's looking to work. Intercepted by the Hornets once again. Fullerton College now with it over to Giles. Giles trying to move it towards the right as Fullerton College will see that one go out, and it is picked up by the Rough Riders. Juan Pablo Ramirez Rebel.
Yeah, I wondered where he was going. I had my camera down here, and I thought, where's he walking to with the ball?
I was trying to figure out just for a moment because initially it looked like he just kept going towards the sideline.
He kept sneaking up.
Taken away for a second. Now over to David Murillo. Murillo giving chase. Fullerton makes another sub as they look to bring in David Suarez a few moments ago. No foul there. Referee pointing. Doesn't give a call as Fullerton is able to get it with Suarez once again. Both teams fighting for it. Little AYSO soccer there for a second, and we're going to get another yellow card.
And Ryan, since you brought up those terms and you talked about up and out, I mean, basically fundamentals, this is what I like about Greg as a head coach. Everybody knows in a soccer game, if you get in trouble, no matter what stage you play at, a coach will tell you, take the ball up and out, up and out. If you take it up and out, you're getting it away from your goal. You take it out. It does not allow the other team to make a counterattack. And you will see that in Greg's play. Also, if you watch Greg, he plays a triangle defense, guys. This is pretty wild when you watch his defenders. And I've watched them tonight. There is this capture by the defenseman in a triangle pattern. It's pretty effective right now against this Arizona team.
It's one thing that we actually noticed last year against Cuyamaca, Mark, is that Fullerton will play that triangle almost trap, if you will, where you get two guys on the back line, one midfielder, all collapse, not necessarily at the same time, but they force the ball into one another. So you get one guy to chase, the other two collapse. So it doesn't give you an option to get the ball away either, as you can't get it to an outlet due to two guys marking you. Turned over for a moment by Fullerton, but it will go all the way back. And keeper takes over for the Hornets and swings it forward. Speaking of the keeper, that is Ryan Marino Rojas, 6'4", 205 out of La Mirada. He got some playing time in the early going last season and looks to get a little bit more the rest of the way here. Fullerton with a very sophomore-heavy goalkeeping trio, we will say, last year. Marino Rojas, if I'm not mistaken, got into 7 matches. But when you've got a lot of experience and guys who are very athletic, who, not only paid their dues for Fullerton, but we're actually doing an excellent job of keeping for the Hornets, as this one gets away for a moment. There were 3 there for the Hornets. Here's a chance that goes flying wide. I think Fullerton just doesn't want me to finish my statements for the rest of the night as they keep going on the attack.
You know, we talked with the coaching staff, and they lamented, like we did at the start of the broadcast, a lot of their, All-American gone, some sophomore players gone. And they were telling us it might be a rough start to the season, or don't expect last year's team to be on the field this year. And I know this is game 1. Well, game 2, actually, I guess. 3, because there was in a tournament, right? No, I think it's 4, because if you count 3 weeks Thursday ago. Anyway. But we're seeing, again, echoes of that team kind of come bubbling to the surface here. And I cut Mark off.
Well, I'm going to let Ryan get the substitutions that just came in.
Gael Castro enters just a few moments ago. He will enter for Jacob Vincent, and then Carlos Rodriguez will also enter as well. Fullerton College taking a couple off. That is Cesar Marquez and Thomas Gomez. And we'll get you a little bit more on the lineup as we continue forward. One of the new guys coming in for the Hornets just a few moments ago is Josias Palacios. And Palacios will take over that top portion of the attacking form for the Hornets. Also entering the match for Fullerton is Kevin Castro. Castro, 6-foot midfielder out of Fairmont Prep. Now Castro watching on from the other side. Midfielder responsible for the middle of the park for Yavapai. Hornets with Cisco Torres taking a look. If you notice Fullerton College bench over to our left, quite the, we'll say, packed area. Fullerton has a large roster, like Mark was saying, around 40 to 44 guys, all of which who have the ability to play very well in Southern California. Foul on Fullerton gives it over to the Rough Riders. But that's one thing that, Mark, you and I have talked about it, we'll say almost ad nauseum over the last, we'll say 8-9 years with Greg taking over.
You guys are old.
But he runs a very different style of program that is not often seen, not just at the community college level, but at the United States level.
Yeah, he teaches, first of all, he respects the sport. Let's get that real clear. If you don't do that as a coach, I don't care how you teach it. Your player's going to know that. He respects the sport. He respects the young people that play for him. He's an educator, mentor. And, Ryan, I'll let you get into that. You've talked to him enough. I just think he is one of the best coaches here in California and maybe in the nation. People can call up and complain to me. But if you got to meet this young man, you would be so impressed with him as a person, you'd have to love this program.
Well, not only him, Mark, but you talk to Greg, you get the sense of how much he cares, not just for the program, not just for wins, but also his players and where they go, how they respond to being at the next level. He keeps up with them all the time. But another person, another couple of people that you also have to look at is Kenny Castellanos. Kenny Castellanos, one of the big things for Kenny is that he is a technician mastermind, if you will. And I don't just say that because I'm the broadcaster here and I want to give you a good story. You talk to the former players that have played under Kenny, and you'll actually hear from Angel Sevillano at halftime as we have a little piece on Fullerton College and this coaching staff getting close to 100 wins. But you'll hear from Sevillano, and one thing that he mentions, and also Misa has mentioned, and we've talked to different guys in the past, they have all said Kenny is a technician at heart. He knows the game of soccer in and out. He knows the angles. He knows the patterns. He knows when to speed up, when to slow down. And it feels like every time you learn something from him, it's not only new, but it's something that you have to master first before you get a chance to move on and learn a new concept. So you look at Kenny, he keeps up with all his former guys as well, along with Greg, and both of them are just able to make sure that not only are these student athletes well equipped to play the game, but they are also well equipped beyond the pitch itself.
Well, and again, talking about Greg, how he treats his players, how he feels about his players, I think part of the proof of that is having a roster 47 players deep. You know, that's part of it. We used to be KBPK, now we're becoming part of Hornet Media. Our old slogan used to be best music, best variety. The soccer team at Fullerton College has their own saying, faith, family, football. And I think that is also indicative of how Greg Aviles likes to mentor his players, coach his players, guide them in life, and help them go from college students and people fresh out of high school and help them become men in society.
No, and you're absolutely right, Joe. That's one thing that, well, we'll say actually that's many things that we have talked to Greg about in the past. There's a shot that goes wide. Fullerton trying to go on the attack. About 6 or 7 small passes that end up leading to a shot on. Just ends up going wide. Placement there was taken by Josias Palacios. Fullerton still on the attack.
Under 10 left, so we're approaching halftime.
But getting back to what we were talking about, it's a very involved style as this one goes up and high, and it will be a goal kick once again for Yavapai. But it's a very involved style from the coaches. One thing that has always impressed me, and Mark, I know you'll speak to it more because that's something that always gets your ears up and listening, is a mandated GPA that Greg always likes to have the players not only just enforce, but it's something that is required for his program to have a high GPA because, as you have heard, Mark, many times for student athletes, you're trying to move on. If you're going to get a school to look at you, not just from an athletic standpoint, but you can offer them something else in academic scholarship.
Yeah, I mean, you can talk about how great the soccer program is, but Greg knows not everybody's going to play professional soccer here in the United States or in Europe. And he wants to have people that will take what soccer gives them, education, experience, life experience, and lets them be able to use it. I mean, I like to think of Hal Scherbeck from being the football guy out here to Greg and say, you know what, this is what coaches understand, the great ones, what a person's life is about. Greg understands it. Hal understood it. This is just, and I agree with you, Ryan. You know, you tell everybody what a great head coach you are by the men you have around you. Greg just always seems to have excellent coaches around him. And that says a lot about him, the program, and the young men that play for him.
Greg Aviles, Kenny Castellanos, the head coach and associate head coach, both of whom looking for wins number 93 through 100. Those are the big points that and milestones that this program is heading towards with their coaching staff. Is coming in here in just a moment is Juan Luis Quintana. He will also be joined in just a moment by Troy Flores. Took me a second because, you know, reading is power.
Yeah, when you think about whose record he broke, too, Ryan Osborne.
Yeah,
Man.
91 wins was the previous record for a coaching staff in the modern era for Fullerton College, and that was set by Scott Giles, who took this team to quite big heights, if you will, in the state tournament. If I'm not mistaken, he has a Final Four appearance under his belt, and that's one thing that Greg Aviles has been building this team towards. And if you continue trends and look at the trend of this program, it continues to face in that direction. You look at Fullerton College in 2016 out of the playoffs for the first couple of years, and especially the year before that, or the year before Greg was hired. But then 2016 on, you start to see the average number of wins continually move up for this program. 2018, you get the first conference championship under Greg Aviles and Kenny Castellanos, and you follow it up with another championship in 2019. A couple of back-to-back Orange Empire Conference crowns in each of the last 2 years. And now, Mark, you're looking at it going, okay, I remember before Greg and Kenny were here where this team would be competitive in the Orange Empire Conference, but they wouldn't be favorites. But now you look at this program and you say, Joe, Mark, this is a favorite to finish top 2, not just in the Orange Empire Conference, but in Southern California.
Well, Ryan, be realistic. Nobody wanted to play soccer here because of the program.
Well, how good this team has been in previous years. I thought it was decent placing, but Mark, when you told us they were 11th in the rankings after last season, part of me was like, really, only 11?
Yeah, nationally, this team is ranked 11, just outside the top 10, and a lot of that is because you do lose, like Mark mentioned, 2 All-Americans, 3 different players who were also all Orange Empire Conference and Southern California guys. So that does knock you down in the rankings just a bit. But if you're Fullerton College, you're quite happy with how you stand right now against an out-of-state opponent. But Mark, Joe, you know, we have talked a lot about Fullerton College coaching staff. I want to switch it over towards the other side. Head coach Christopher Hauser and Guillermo Gatti, the assistant coach on the other side for Yavapai, they themselves have also created a winning culture at Yavapai. Mark, you know, anytime that you're able to get a coach who played for the men's national team in the United States and becomes your head coach, he gives you that experience to be able to look at the way that you play soccer at the collegiate level in a very different way.
That's a heck of a resume.
Yes, it is.
Well, and Ryan realized that this is not an old community college like Fullerton. It doesn't have the years. I believe it got established in 1969. So for community colleges, it's still a youngster. And to do and what they've accomplished in the time they've done it, I think they have something like, when you look at their alumni, there's 12 former players that play for or have played professional soccer.
Yeah, and one of the big things that you'll see in out-of-state teams, Mark, is that you always will hear about the teams in the Midwest, but not enough is made about the teams that are right down the street, if you're a Californian, in Arizona.
Yeah, exactly.
So a lot of credit goes to head coach Chris Hauser. And just to give you a little bit more on his bio, of course, last year, 8-6 overall record, runner-up finish in the regional title match. And the year before that, 9-4-1. And then also, he himself has coached a lot of All-Americans at Yavapai. They had a guy just a few years back who, in Ian Topetti, and excuse me if I'm not saying that name correctly. If I am not saying it correctly, you're more than welcome to let me know how it should be pronounced in the comments. But an All-American in his own right, 67th All-American in program history, Mark. 67 All-Americans. You mentioned how young a college can be as this ball is over towards that far side. It will be a goal kick coming up for Fullerton College. But to have 67 All-Americans in that amount of time is beyond impressive.
Oh, yeah, I agree. And, I mean, he's done a heck of a job. And realize they are known as a national program. They go out, they'll play anybody. And I really do respect a coach that says, hey, you want to just get in the car and drive 500 miles to play you? You got it. We'll be here. We'll play you.
Ball swung over. We are in additional time here in the end of the first half. Fullerton College with the lead, 1-0. Right now finishing up on Christopher Hauser, the head coach of the Yavapai Rough Riders. Both of these two head coaches, lots of credit goes to each of them for playing this match, Mark, because you and I have seen Fullerton College, or excuse me, not Fullerton College, but community college in general. And Joe, you've seen it as well in the time that you've been with us. A lot of coaches around not just the state of California, but the country aren't necessarily looking to play those out-of-state opponents all the time because you just don't have film on them. You just don't have a look at them, so you don't know what style they're going to play. You don't know what type of game you're going to run into. But both of these coaches, credit to each of them, they have decided, you know what, we want to see what out-of-state opponents have to offer us.
They have decided, YOLO, let's do it.
Well, the other thing too, Ryan, let me bring up the ugly phrase. Many times, depending on which group it is, what sport it is, playing out-of-state teams, you don't get any RPI for playing them. And then when it comes to playoff times, you don't get the ranking. So they don't want to go play out-of-state teams, you know. And I, just like any coach that says, I'll play anybody, and if it doesn't, I don't get extra because I played against them, that's okay. I want to play against the best. And tonight we have two of the best teams in the United States.
Far side of the park, Fullerton College is going to get themselves a free kick. You can't get any closer to the box without actually getting a penalty kick on that far side than where Fullerton is at the current moment. Kyle Sherman is going to step up to it. Fullerton has 6 different guys inside the box, make it 7, with 1 peeking just outside. Everyone moving around for just a moment. Andrew Ariola looking around. It's a liner, back post, just goes wide. Does that go off of a Rough Rider or not? It is off Yavapai, and it will be a Fullerton College corner kick as 2 different deflections take place before that ball gets past the end line.
I know we're not out of the first half of the game, but opening minutes of the first half, I saw some chippiness, a little bit of physicality, some people getting a little shovey, and ticking down into the final minutes of the first half and now into extra time, I am seeing that level of physicality increase as Yavapai definitely doesn't want to let another one find the back of their net, and they're trying to, or we're trying to, as the first half ends, trying to at least get on the scoreboard before the end of the first half.
And with the first half ending, we want to again remind you of what the score is. It's 1-0 Fullerton College with the lead after the end of the first 45. To summarize the scoring, Evan Courtney in the 12th minute gets on the board only 2.5 minutes after checking into the match. He gets the assist from Jair Vargas, and Vargas, while giving it over to him on the right side, just outside the Hornets script to our right, makes it 1-0. So as you see there, 1-0 is the Fullerton College score over top of Yavapai as we set ourselves into the half. So guys, just before we do get over to that halftime video that we do have, you take a look at this first half. Joe, you mentioned it, a lot of physicality between both sides, but one thing I give them credit for, oftentimes when you see 2 teams who don't have film on each other and it gets physical, you start to see it spill over just a shade. But in this case, you're not seeing that, as both of these 2 teams are analyzing it tactically.
And I'm wondering, second half, do we see the level of physicality get increased or not? We saw it happen a couple times last season where the refs let the players become progressively more and more physical. The play got more chippy as the game went on. And the ref in the last 20, 25 minutes of the game almost had to wrestle control back from the players because there was so much physical action happening on the field.
It's all about defense, guys. It's all about defense.
Well, Mark, I was actually just going to switch it over to you. You speak about the defense. If you're both of these 2 teams, from a coaching perspective, it's interesting because you have 2 different ways you can play it. Obviously, you can play for a win here, right? You're playing a team from out of state. But at the same time, Mark, do you also open up your bench just a shade more to see what your 2s and 3s can do against an out-of-state opponent when it won't count towards your RPI in state?
Well, if you're Greg, yes. If you're me, probably not. I want to win the game. And we know Greg wants to win the game. But, guys, a great shot in the upper right-hand side of the net gives Fullerton a 1-0 lead. That's it. If you're a Prescott, Arizona person right now, you're just saying you haven't seen our offense. If that offense wakes up, then we'll see if the tempo and the attitude of the game changes completely in this second half.
Speaking of tempo and attitude, we're going to give you a little peek into the Fullerton College program as they are looking to try and get themselves to 100 wins under the current coaching staff of Coach Greg Aviles and Kenny Castellanos. The head coaching staff for the Fullerton College Hornets is approaching a big-time milestone in their program's history. Greg Aviles, Kenny Castellanos, and their staff are getting up to 100 wins as a program since the hiring of Greg Aviles in 2016. Since that time, the Fullerton College Hornets have found their way into the postseason multiple times, including conference championships in 2018 and back-to-back titles in each of the last 2 years. For this coaching staff, they continue to try and lay the foundation of not just a legacy of a quality program in terms of wins and losses, but also in how they affect the players.
Well, first and foremost, we made a great hire in Greg. He's been absolutely fantastic, not only as a soccer coach, but as a faculty member within the physical education division. He's been outstanding there. He's worked with us on curriculum and course development. He's currently our department chair. He brings the whole package. As far as the soccer program, he fields competitive teams every year. He competes for and wins conference championships. He has a large roster size. Players move on. He's doing everything that we expect a coach to do on our campus, which is field competitive teams, move players on, and make sure athletes have an enjoyable experience. So he's been fabulous. We couldn't ask for a better hire.
Oh, it was a great experience. Definitely learned a lot from Kenny and Greg, and the other assistants too that were there. But really, the emphasis on like student success and just building a program around helping, student athletes to make sure that they're set up for their future, I think is really the most important part of it. I know Greg will always say that the wins come, like regardless of whether we push for wins, but as long as we push for growth and for developing players in that aspect, the wins will happen. So really just learning a lot from Greg and Kenny, and just being a part of them really was the greatest thing ever.
And speaking of those wins, this coaching staff has amassed quite a few of them in that time since 2016. 92 to be exact in that timeline from 2016 to today, and it includes many chances to go to the postseason and multiple conference titles as well. You look at 2018, 2019, back-to-back conference titles there, and they are currently the two-time defending Orange Empire Conference champions.
Yeah, it's very impressive to get 100 wins in this short amount of time. But every year he keeps winning. He has winning records, wins conference championships. I thought last year we were in a really good position as the #1 seed in the South to maybe win it all. It didn't happen. But yeah, but to get close, he's going to have 100 wins this year, and in this short period of time, yeah, very impressive. And very impressive because our league, the Orange Empire Conference on the men's side, was Santa Ana, Golden West, Orange Coast, Riverside. Well, Riverside was at one point in time, no longer, but Santiago Canyon, and Saddleback, and Irvine Valley. It's a very competitive soccer league. And I can't leave Cypress out too. Cypress has their quality soccer program underneath Christian. A good friend of mine who was a former Fullerton College guy. But yeah, it's very a competitive league, and for us for him to get that many wins in a very competitive league it just shows that he's one heck of a coach.
For me, I think they're like the opposite. They're like very different. So I think that's very positive in a team like this, because I feel Coach Greg is like more not really the standards American soccer coach, but like he's more like he likes physical players, he likes fast players, but at the same time he will teach you like new ways of playing soccer. He will try to like make you see the same things that he sees on the field. So he'll build like diamonds, or he'll divide the field in ways that is very easy to read and understand for like players. And if you stick to the steps that he teaches, it will be really easy to play soccer. And for me, Coach Kenny is different, because I don't even think we had the chance to really like get everything out of him because he knows a lot about soccer. He's a person that he really lives soccer. He's a soccer player, right? He plays soccer in a very high level, and he understands the game in a different way. And we always say that for us to get something new from Kenny, we first gotta like master what we're working on right now. And I think I would have loved to be more years of being able to see more different styles or ways that Coach Kenny has of seeing soccer. So I wish I would have been longer because he would have teach me way much more. But yeah.
Do a lot of meetings at Fullerton. I know Greg does a lot of leadership meetings and a lot of leadership activities. Just giving student athletes, those experiences to lead and just a player-driven process. And actually, there's players that step up and become leaders of the team and have the to be impactful. We always take feedback from the players and allow them to have their piece. But yeah, it's just giving the players opportunities to be successful in those leadership roles, which allows them to grow.
Well, both years at Fullerton College for me, it was I learned a lot. Like as a player, as a person, they made me improve in a lot of aspects. Coach Kenny and Greg, for me, we always say they're like my American parents. So we have like that bond already, and then also soccer wise, just the way I didn't really have many chances out of high school. I didn't have many places to go, and now after these 2 years, I had a lot of places that wanted me. I had a lot of places that I was trying out and going to train with them, and I ended up going to San Francisco State. So I'm very grateful for that.
As big as the road to 100 is for this coaching staff, you start to get a sense that it's not as big or as important as the number one goal and priority for this team, and that is student success. Whether it be at Fullerton College or beyond, Coach Greg Aviles and Coach Kenny Castellanos continually, in their own way, make sure that the student athlete not just has success at Fullerton College on the pitch, winning championships, but also has success in transferring and getting a degree.
I think the biggest thing really of Greg and Kenny is seeing the players that move on, seeing the players that graduate, seeing the players that become successful, and that's really the biggest thing. Like, I think they will celebrate the 100 wins, but I think Greg always says he'd rather celebrate, probably the 100th graduation that he gets invited to. That's really, what we were about, and that's what we're about. We would always recruit high school kids. We wouldn't really go after like the semi-pro guys that are out there. We would always want to get the high school kids to help them and develop them. But the biggest thing for I think Greg is really seeing the student athletes get their degrees and graduate. I think that would be like the biggest thing that he would probably celebrate.
I say that for me, it changed my life in a lot of aspects, not only soccer, also as a person. Me being here alone, my family lives in Spain, so being for me was the right decision. Hopefully, whoever is listening this and they decide to go to Fullerton College, I hope it's also the right decision for you, and it helps you achieve whatever it is. Not only as a soccer player or like going to a 4-year to play. Maybe as some of our teammates that they're done after the 2 years, but they're better people. They're better, like they have a degree. They have that competition experience that is going to help them also in the future on maybe being a leader or like being a better coworker or whatever they do in different projects. I think it's very positive. So yeah, we totally recommend it.
And we welcome you back to Futbol Fridays here on Hornet Radio in collaboration with the men's soccer side here at Fullerton College. Just a few moments ago, you heard from Charlie Gomez, coach, or I should say former coach, and current athletic director Scott Giles, and of course, Angel Sevillano, who played for last year's team for Fullerton College, on just what it means for this program. And Mark, One thing that we always welcome here on Hornet Radio is involvement from the fans. When they have the opportunity to let us know more about their programs and the programs that they support, we want to hear from you, and we welcome a little bit more information on Yavapai because, of course, we're from Southern California, right? We know all about the teams from the Orange Empire Conference. Mark, over to my right, is the voice of Cypress College Charger Soccer, and myself being with the Hornets for the last 10 years. We know all about Southern California, and we welcome all that information from outside. You hear Yavapai has 7 players with national caps, international appearances as well, 3 FIFA World Cup appearances, and 8 MLS players, along with numerous former players playing in professional leagues around the globe. So big thank you for those of you who are putting that in the comments, for letting us know, because we want to know more information about the programs that you're involved with, the programs that you care for. And that's some of the big things about community college overall, Mark, is that it's not just about the fans, it's not just about the players on the field, it's that sense of community.
Yeah, and the other thing is, and I know I always get picked on when I talk about it, these are student athletes, and let us not get confused. We know that student athletes now at major schools are getting paid. Community college, you play a sport, you go to class, and Ryan, in many cases, you know, because you did it here at Fullerton College, you work a job. And you make it where you say, okay, I'm going to put in X amount of hours for my soccer team, my soccer coach. I've got to go to work to help my family, and I got to keep my grades up to get it going. You put in almost 24 hours a day. I know because I was one of your instructors when you first went to school here. Ryan worked 3 jobs when he was going to school here. People forget that these young people out here for both these schools have stories like that. And Ryan, it's just pretty amazing. And we love the fact that the parents or friends will call in and tell us that.
We really do, and that was one of the joys about last season for Fullerton College and covering this team on Futbol Fridays. It's the fact that we were able to interact with all the different fans, whether it be the parents of players, family members of players, fans of the college itself. Maybe you're a cousin or you're that person who has seen Fullerton on YouTube and decided, hey, what am I tuning into? We want to hear from you. We want that involvement because it's what truly makes it special. Thank you very much, Lorena. As one of the great things about Fullerton College, and speaking of special, are athletic trainers here at Fullerton. Mark can tell you more, but the athletic trainers here at Fullerton College, oh so special in making sure that not only we feel welcome, because of course, you know, that's one of the things that we always love. We feel welcome, but making sure that the athletes are performing to the best of their abilities.
Yeah, we've seen Lorena many times come in and I'm going to say come to the aid of some of the players who, for whatever circumstances may or may not have happened on the field, obviously, unforeseen, she comes to the rescue of these young men and women out on the field.
Ball over towards the right as Fullerton College is going to switch sides here, go from right to left, and Yavapai is going to go from left to right, trying to get some possession here. The Rough Riders moving forward with Vincent. Dispossessed there for a moment, and Kyle Sherman will take over. Swung all the way back as Fullerton wants to work over to Marino Rojas, and he'll swing it towards the right side, far side of the park if you're watching online, as the Hornets will give it over. Picked up, left side of the back line, Eric Inarte. He'll slow things down, looking for a teammate, looking initially over to his right, and he'll switch it back to his left, just past Rashawn Powery. Powery over to his left. Here's a chance. Kyle Sherman with the ball. Left shot. And it goes off the top of his boot. But the play was there. Mark, if you look at Greg Aviles and Kenny Castellanos, it almost makes you feel like that was a designed opportunity. The way that they crossed and made sure that Sherman had extra space to run into.
Yeah, and Sherman could feel the defender coming in on him, Ryan. I think he would have liked to have taken about 4 more steps and then tried to whip it across with that left foot. But a great set play.
Fullerton picking it up. Here's Sherman. There's a foul. Is it against Fullerton? It seems so. Fullerton initially trying to figure out what's going on. And by he, I mean the official, decides that it was in fact a Fullerton College ball going to our left. So Fullerton will be attacking once more. Fullerton, if you're just tuning in the all navy blue uniforms with white numerals going from right to left in the second half. On the other side, Yavapai is in the white uniforms with gray accents, joined by gold numerals and green outlining. Swung over towards the middle of the box. Here's a chance down the center where it will go off of a Hornet and go right down the middle lane of the goal. And it is picked up by Ionita, and he is able to make the save. So that is the third save of the night for Ionita, and it's taken away by the Hornets. Here's a chance, little off-footer, top right, just misses. Opportunity there for Giovanni Sanchez's mark. He just tries to half-tap, pitch it over top, and it goes past the right post.
Joe, watch the anticipation even by the forwards that are up there that are making an attack on this. I mean, this entire team is quicker than we think, and we just don't know if it's just tonight or if it's something we're going to see all season long.
Yeah, well, and that could even be a thing of, we've talked about it, the halftime adjustments, right? It happens at the half of a football game. It happens at the halftime of almost every game. You go to the locker rooms, you get that locker room pep talk, and sometimes the players come out with an extra little something in their step, going up or down the field.
Poked forward by the Hornets as the Rough Riders try and move it up the park. Ball goes out, and it will be tossed in on the far side as Fullerton College, again, we mentioned it earlier, 18-3-2 last year. 1-0, they lead it here in the second half as darkness settles over the city of Fullerton.
All right. Ominous much?
Swung back towards Ionita. He's got to get it away quickly. Does so. That's up into the air. Goes over towards midfield. Popped up. Floated away. It gets past Vargas for just a moment, but Fullerton takes over once more. Down the far side touchline. Scooped out of bounds. And now Giles will have to go over and toss it in. Fullerton in the early going last year did pretty well in out-of-conference matchups. If my memory is correct, they went 4-1-1 in out-of-conference matchups. So they are not really all that much of a stranger to facing difficult out-of-Southern California opponents. Of course, this last weekend, Fullerton getting their 92nd win under Kenny Castellanos and Greg Aviles as they went 1-1 at the Mount Sac tournament. Here's a chance that goes off the top of the foot of Juan Luis Quintana. Fullerton is getting their opportunities, Joe. Last two chances for the Hornets have just gone off the top of the toes, top of the arch even, of these Hornet attackers, and it's just not gone in.
Yeah, they've definitely had plenty looks at the net. One found the back of the net. And then it looks like the opening minutes of the second half is looking to be as physical as the end of the first half potentially ended.
Yeah, Marquez almost got booked there, pleading with the ref, saying, hey, you know what, wasn't intentional, didn't mean to clip boots on that far side. Doesn't end up getting booked, just gets a warning there. And on the far side of the field, the Yavapai coaching staff is going to get a booking. Not clear on who exactly it goes against on that far side, but someone on the bench, you know, just making sure that they have their feelings known on that last play. There's nothing wrong with that, Mark, as you see a lot of coaches who oftentimes maybe even that booking isn't necessarily all about just talking to the ref, as it is just letting your team know that you're behind them.
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem with a coach complaining about somebody maybe not getting what he thought was fair.
Here's Sherman, left side. Sherman trying to get away from one. Sherman on a one-on-one. Gets dispossessed nicely there by Ricardo Juarez, and Juarez plays that beautifully. Joe, Mark, you look at that. Juarez finds the angle, flips his hips, and is able to scoop the ball away with his off foot.
You know, Joe, you brought up this being more physical. I think there's actually more grabbing going on than we saw earlier. You know, that occasional grab by a soccer player where he grabs your arm, slows you off balance. Not that I would do anything like that.
We're aware that words have meanings, right? So are you saying that isn't physical play, or are you agreeing with me?
No, I'm agreeing with you.
Okay, I got a little confused over here.
Well, that's not unusual.
This ball gets sent out of play by Yol on the far side of the park. So just inside, we'll say the height of the box, there will be a throw-in coming up for Yavapai, as a Rough Rider has hopped the fence on the far side to go get that ball, as it hopped off the barrier.
Hop, skip, and a jump, tried to make it to the parking lot.
And you know what? A lot of people here at Fullerton have been trying to make it to the parking lot over the last couple of days.
That has certainly been a theme with the first week of school in Fullerton College back in full swing.
If you are tuning in from the Arizona side of things, this is the first week of classes re-beginning for Fullerton College. Specifically, yesterday was the first day of school and the first day of the fall starting. So, as is the case with pretty much any educational institution that you may find, parking on the first couple days has been a little tough to find.
Well, as long as you don't park your car in any goo, you're okay.
Right at midfield, Fullerton College gets fouled. Specifically, Marquez gets taken down, and it will be a Fullerton College free kick. And the Fullerton College Hornets will bring in a sub. As coming in for Sherman will be Oliver Torres Martinez.
You hate to see it, but that was a beautiful flick backwards, and I hate to say you needed to do it in that situation, but like you talk about creating a stoppage in the play, for Yavapai to get their players back into position, they needed to stop that advance by the Hornet offense.
They did. This will be a foul against Fullerton. We might see a yellow come out. It doesn't look like it. Initially, the referee reached towards his back pocket, but decides against it, as trying to get to that ball was Nathan Giles on the far side of the park, just inside the box. We'll say about, 15 yards away from the penalty marker. And it will be a foul against the Hornets. And going from left to right, the Rough Riders will take the ball over. The official is retreating backwards towards the linesman on the far side. And getting a little clarification on what he believes took place. Lots of conversation between Ionita and the head official, as this will end up being a drop ball.
Yeah, Ryan, I thought the Rough Riders ran in to their own goalie. And I didn't believe that anybody from Fullerton really created the scene for there to be a penalty called right there.
See, I see it a little differently. Not necessarily that there was a penalty. I don't believe that there was any contact necessary for a penalty. But I think that three guys just collided with each other. I think that's where you had three different guys, goalkeeper, Nathan Giles, defender. All three of them came together towards the ball. Lots of it is incidental contact and nothing going towards a call for a penalty or even a foul the other way. You drop the ball, you let the play continue, and now Fullerton College has it far side. Here's Giles. And again, we mentioned it earlier, but he's the best on the team in terms of launching the ball. As this one goes down towards Ionita, that should be a card. Immediately a yellow comes out. And Fullerton College will see a booking for Evan Yole. A show clock stoppage as Yole is going to get called for it in the 11th minute of the second half.
Fullerton College seems like they came out of the first half and they really want to put the exclamation point on this game.
Well, you look at that first half of play, the first 45, Joe and Mark, lots of possession for Fullerton College, not necessarily in the attacking third, but what you're seeing, or what you did see in that first 45, was a lot of possession from the midfield marker to about what is marked as the 30-yard line here at Scherbeck Field. Scooped out far side. Quick attack there for Fullerton College goes awry as There was a slight miscommunication between Giles on that right wing along with Juan Luis Quintana. Throw-in coming up for the Rough Riders as Fullerton College is going to make a substitution in just a couple of moments as Jared Rodriguez will enter. 32:45 showing on the clock. All the way back it will go. Max Ron. He's got to see this one go up into the air. High bouncer, short hop, taken over. Now we'll go over to Poery, and Poery sees a foul against Fullerton College. Hitting the deck there just for a moment is Nathaniel Claudio. And Claudio will earn possession for his side. Two of the great coaching staffs and coaching minds across both of these two states, watching their teams battle it out here. Over towards the right, there's an opportunity, finally scooped away. Attacking third go the Rough Riders, near post, and that goes just a bit too far for Castro. Castro trying to catch up to it, and he will see that one get scooped out.
You see more of an attacking attitude. I think now they've gotten to the point that, yeah, hey, if we get beaten on a counter, we need to attack this Fullerton defense. And the Rough Riders have tried to do that here in the start of the second half.
Claudio on the toss-in. He was trying to find his teammate in Andres Pulido, and Pulido commits a foul. Whistle goes, and Fullerton College will have to take it back. Little side swiper that goes over towards Poery. Poery trying to control off the toe. Now to Pulido. Pulido trying to load it up. Fires! And Marino Rojas is there. He was looking for that left post. And one thing that's dangerous about that shot mark is that it takes two hops. You can't really predict, especially off turf, how that's going to spin. Is it going to spin away from you? Is it going to come back towards the near post? A tough one there for Marino Rojas. Just over 30 to play in this one. Over top of the head of Oliver Torres Martinez. Torres Martinez sees that one go all the way towards the corner. It will be a throw-in now for Yavapai. Heavy pressure for Fullerton as they're trying to press their way towards the midfield marker. Taken away by the Hornets for just a moment and finally possessed by Vargas. Vargas looking for a fellow Hornet. Can't find one. Taken away by the Rough Riders. Finally swung over towards Karcher. Karcher looking for someone, and it goes through two, and we'll have to go all the way back to the Fullerton keeper. Lots of possession. Almost looked like a handball from Fullerton, but it goes as a foul against Yavapai.
Yeah, I feel like we are definitely seeing both teams getting some sort of halftime pep talk, and you can tell the adjustments that were made, the coaching that was done at the half to try to come out in the second half, and for Yavapai, get one on the board. For Fullerton, again, build that lead, put the exclamation point on the game, because 1-0 being up, you're one errant goal away from being tied up. You put that exclamation point on the game, you're up 2-0, you've got some cushion. I'm not saying you can take your foot off the gas, but maybe if you're feeling a little cheeky, you can pop the car into cruise control, still going 60 on the freeway, but pop it into cruise control and kind of be like, we'll be okay.
Well, it's a difference of having to press versus controlling the pace of play, Joe. And it goes to exactly what you're saying, as Marino Rojas is going to come sliding out, and he'll take possession overall. But it's like you're talking about, Joe. If you get one more on the board, you're able to decide, do we want to park the bus? Do we want to kind of play around in the midfield as this one goes towards the left? Trying to sprint over to it is Quintana. Can't get there in time before it's scooped up. But it gives you options on what play style you would like to enforce the rest of the way, as opposed to right now. As of right now, you're just protecting a 1-0 lead and still trying to press because you need that one more goal to be comfortable. It's the, we'll call it a Corey Nayland type made-up word, the comfortability of what you will be able to see the rest of the way.
And I mean, we can even throw it to Mark over there. He mentioned defense. I'm sure if Mark had his way, he would love to see Fullerton come out of this match with a clean sheet.
Yeah, I would. And you know, guys, give it to the Rough Riders. Ryan, I would say really no shots on goal on that first half. You look now, they've got at least 2 here in the second half.
Left side. Picked up. Back spun. And it goes out.
Ryan's going, Mark's not generous on just giving people shots. Nah, it's got to be the real deal, dude.
One thing that I really also enjoy when it comes to fan involvement, as taking a seat here in just a couple of moments, will be Vargas. And hopping onto the pitch will be Jared Rodriguez, as former players. That's something that Mark and I have experienced many, many times when it comes to Fullerton College football. The gridiron aspect of things. But getting the ability to see former players tune in, talk to us over top of the live stream and in the comments, and let us know how they're doing, how their teammates are doing. And that's one thing we do want to shout out in the comments. You get someone like a Brian Aragon who moves on, gets that commitment to go and play elsewhere after Fullerton College, checking in.
And Ryan, because I can't remember the name, what's the foundation that Greg told us to mention?
I believe it was Flock, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
As one big thing about Flock, as we'll pop this up on the screen here in just a moment, for any child growing up provides its own set of challenges, whether if it's trying to fit in with the cool kids or dealing with personal insecurities. Being a child naturally brings its trials. On top of those typical growing pains, imagine how much harder it would be to grow up homeless. Unfortunately, that is the case for many children in Orange County. About 30,000 homeless children in Orange County who either live in a motel, shelter, double or tripled up with other families at the current moment. Founder of Flocks, Angela Joe, had heard this statistic, and she knew she had to do something about it. So enter Fullerton's Love of Orange County Kids, who is a 501c3 nonprofit organization whose mission it is to end the cycle of child homelessness in Orange County. They support children who identify as homeless through the McKinney-Vento Act. And they are one of the big sponsors for Fullerton College men's soccer here on campus. Not only are they a sponsor of Fullerton College and helping them out in the program as well, but like we talked about just a few moments ago and being able to read off that information, Joe, Mark, it's something huge in the city of Orange County, but the county of Orange that a lot of people unfortunately overlook.
Yeah, and huge in the city of Fullerton, where it was founded, obviously. And here's something Mark and I can probably bond over. I know I can say fatherhood has affected me when you read what Flock is about, and I'm up here in the booth getting a little bit choked up, thinking about how if my family or Harper were in that sort of situation, I'm sure Mark, also being part of Dad Club, would have similar feelings thinking about that and how that could affect his family. So it's great seeing that there are some people out there trying to help families through what could be the toughest and or worst times of their life.
Well, Joe, let's put it this way. You being a young father, understand how difficult it is nowadays, and it's nice to know there's somebody there for you if you need them.
I'm going to be quiet right now so I don't get choked up and cry on the air. We'll say have a Tim Waltz moment. Not afraid to show some tears, but I'm just going to be quiet and let Ryan do some more talking.
That ball went out just a few moments ago, but it's like Joe and Mark were talking about, Flock. If you have the opportunity to take a look at, what they have going on for this program, they are a big-time sponsor and helper of Fullerton College men's soccer. So take a look at what they have to offer. This ball goes towards the left side where it is intercepted by the Hornets and finally moved up over towards the awaiting foot of Giovanni Sanchez. Sanchez tries to move it to 2, and Mason Gorham, I believe, is the one who ends up getting into it with a Yavapai player. There's a headbutt that takes place, a couple of confrontations, and finally both teams are going to have to be separated there for just a moment. I wouldn't be shocked if there is a straight red, and there is indeed, as Mason Gorham is going to be asked to leave the pitch, and that will be Fullerton College having to play with 10 the rest of the way, as just a little lapse of judgment forces Fullerton College to have to change their tactics the entire way. And we do want to wish the best for the player who we will see in just a moment, who ended up on the receiving side of things, hoping that he stays all healthy.
Well, let's give it to the referee stepping in quickly, Ryan, because, I mean, after that happened, you could see the young men from Arizona stepping up to protect one of their own.
What
and
a
because
goofy
he
thing to
stepped
do.
up, we don't have to be saying right now, hey, unfortunately, this game gets called. So a little cooler heads take over here in the soccer field. And that's why our time is out right now. We've got a player down on the ground.
And Joe, I mean, you were about to talk on it. It's a tough thing to see here, especially when you were talking about it. Physicality was there, but it wasn't going overboard. And we hadn't seen that throughout the entirety of this match. But it's not just something that affects the team, but it's something that you look at and you go, okay, a lapse of judgment not only hurts the team in the immediacy, but now you're having to look at maybe the next few games, possible suspension.
Yeah, the nicest way I can say it is what a goofy thing to do on the field. I understand you were on a breakaway. I understand one of the players from Yavapai did their best impersonation of a speed bump on the field, tripped up your player, ruined that drive. But there is no reason to do that. I believe football, soccer, also referred to as the gentleman's game, the beautiful game. Come on, guys, let's keep it classy. We don't need to do any of that kind of stuff.
So a little confrontation between both sides. Fullerton College with just about 23 minutes left in this one, in the, well, we'll say the regulation side of things, ends up getting a straight red that is given out to Mason Gorham. So once again, a straight red with 23 minutes left to play. And Fullerton is going to have to play with 10 the rest of this matchup against the team from Arizona in the Yavapai Rough Riders, excuse me.
And you keep mentioning Fullerton only has 10 men on the pitch instead of 11. It's also a selfish thing to do because now you're making the other 10 on your team have to pick up the slack.
Yeah, it's just a little tough there to end up seeing something like that happen. And now the question is, how do the rest of your team, or how does the rest of your team respond? And I think that's the big thing that you'll see from Kenny Castellanos and Greg Aviles is they're going to be watching how their guys not only on the field respond, but also off the field. How do they take it attitude-wise when they see someone go off the pitch for a straight red? How do you take it tactically? How do you respond athletically? Lots of different factors that go into this that when people watch online or they watch a matchup on a Saturday, they think, okay, 10 guys, now you're playing from behind or at least chasing the ball a little bit. There's a lot more that goes into it because of the community college aspect. You're trying to see how your guys are going to respond mentally and physically as well.
Yeah, just under 20 left. Fullerton up by 1, but again, also down 1 player. I know lots of people like to say greatness is born from adversity. So let's see how Fullerton College responds the rest of this game. Header right there. One of the Yavapai players went down. I did not see contact. Maybe one of the sideline judges saw something that I didn't see.
There was a little contact as both guys were going up for the ball, but it seemed like it was kind of a head-to-head collision as they both rose
Typical
up.
kind of in the air. We're both going
Right.
for a header torp. Yeah.
So for just a moment, I believe it is Pulido who is being attended to. I'll get more on that in just a moment, as it is actually Rashad Powery who gets talked to by the athletic training staff here at Fullerton College.
And there we go, twice. Lorena out on the field, like we said. Whatever circumstance gets her on the field, there she is out there taking care of the student athletes, whether it's the home team or the away team.
I think it was Ricardo Juarez who was the one who unfortunately got injured on that play with Gorham earlier. So a lot of subs coming in, one of them for an injury. Actually make it 2 of them being for an injury, as taking over on the near side of the field, it looks like for Powery will be Dante Espino Kennedy.
And I know none of us like to see the play stop, the flow of play interrupted, lots of fouls, lots of dropped balls when the referee goes quick to the pocket for the cards. But Mark Ryan, Do we think the ref needs to kind of try to wrestle control of this game back because of how physical it's starting to become?
No, I think he's done the right thing. He stopped and he took a player out of the game because of an ill-advised move on his part. And he's letting him play on. He's still letting him be physical. And, there's nothing worse than a referee who wants to decide the outcome of a game.
So you don't think it's gotten that chippy just yet? You think
No.
let him play on?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, I think I'm in agreement with that. So far, he has managed the game pretty well. And like Mark mentioned, right, you show both sides that you can be very strict on the cards if that is what is warranted. You give the straight red, you force a team to play down by 10, but with 10 for the remainder of this game. It sends that clear message to both sides, hey, if you let it go overboard, you're going to get docked for it. So I think he's managed it pretty well. I think you'll let that physicality continue and just see how this one plays out towards the latter end of it with under 17 minutes to play. So 73rd minute here between Fullerton College and Yavapai. Rough Riders trying to get on the board, looking to even things up. Taking a run at this on that left side of the park. Getting that one taken away was David Murillo for just a moment, and it will go out of play for a throw-in. Tossed in quickly. Fullerton's going to make a couple of subs here in just a few moments. David Garcia watching on. Taken away by the Hornets, Cesar Marquez. Marquez wants to run. He's looking for Quintana, just can't get it to him in time. That ball was curling back towards Quintana for just a moment, and then all of a sudden it finds its way onto the foot of the awaiting Ionita. High floater over towards Joel. He pops it back. Now chipped down. Contact, foul against the Rough Riders, and Fullerton will see another yellow card awarded out, as it looks like getting the booking on this one will end up being Juan Pablo Ramirez Rebel with 16 minutes left on the clock, so the 74th minute, if my math is correct, Mark.
I know those are the types of runs you have to make. You have to make those passes. But when you give it too many beans like that and the ball outruns the player you're trying to get to, or you send it too far, maybe hold on to it too long, let the other team set up an offsides trap. I don't know, those just feel like one-man missions, and I feel like those are successful less often than they are actually yielding any sort of points.
And that's, well, part of it, Joe, is you take a look at having to play with 10 guys. So it forces you to try and fill that space in with a lot more directional kicks. Here's an opportunity that is skied high by Julio Toaza.
3 points through the uprights.
Did get that through, but not quite what he was looking for, as the trio of subs will enter for Fullerton College. Micah Yanez will enter for the Hornets. He will also be joined by David Suarez, in addition to David Garcia. So 3 out for the Hornets, and it looks like it is the entire attacking trio for Fullerton of Quintana, joined by Cesar Marquez, and in addition to Jared Rodriguez. So Rodriguez gets about 18 minutes of work there, and he will sub out. Kyle Sherman warming up for the Hornets, and it looks like he may enter at next opportunity. High backspun floater, left-hand side, into the air. Checked down by Ariola, spun around. Yavapai trying to get themselves equal and level here. Fought for, far side of the park. There's a set piece coming up for the Rough Riders. Asking to take over is Rafael DeSeco. DeSeco will step up to it left-footed. Lots of guys towards the top of the 18-yard box. Fullerton trying to mark everyone. You've got 7 different Rough Riders just inside the top of the 18. High floater, Marino Rojas walks it right down to the post, and at the crossbar, he's able to spin it out, and it will be a very deep throw-in coming up for the Rough Riders.
To me, that looked like it came off the Rough Rider. I saw Fullerton send it into the shins of a Rough Rider player and go out of bounds.
And I think Fullerton's sideline agreed with you there as Espino Kennedy is going to check this one down right side. There's a tumble. No call coming. There it is. A penalty coming up for the Rough Riders.
Dangerous place to make that kind of play. I understand the need for it, but once again, the Rough Riders have a free kick.
And this is where the composure comes in from the other side for Coach Christopher Hauser. Both these two coaches, we've been talking them up all game, and that's one thing that you look at Coach Christopher Hauser and you say he has coached his team well throughout the years, along with Greg Aviles too, in that you look at the Rough Riders, they go down 1-0 fairly early, but now they start to build their momentum back, and they have an excellent chance here to get themselves on the board and draw this one level. So a penalty kick is coming up. Brian Marino Rojas, they will flip the decision.
Yeah, Ryan, when they came over, they talked to the line judge because he had the better view on this. And I like the fact the referee had enough courage to go over to him and say, okay, what did you see? How did you see it? Personally, I thought it was a flop.
Lots of contact was there, but it was a question of, was the contact warranting of a penalty? Was it a foul, or just two guys who ended up coming together at the wrong time? And the near side line judge, like you mentioned, Mark, decides that it is not a penalty. So now the Rough Riders have to manufacture something here and get themselves going.
Well, and like you guys saying, that is the ref having the courage to take a breath, go talk to his sideline official and go, what did you see? This was my gut. You probably had the better angle because, like both of you said, this call shouldn't help decide the outcome of the game.
Well, and Joe, you talked about it being so physical right now. We know in soccer that if they're calling it now physical, if somebody touches me, I'm going to grab my leg and lay on the ground for 45 minutes.
All right, all right.
There's a throw in left side. Fullerton wants to make a substitution.
It's broad generalization, and I would like you to have a written apology to the sport of soccer by Monday, please.
Well, no, I'm probably going to, when I take down
By
this
Monday?
camera, I'll be on the ground after I take down this camera. You guys will have to carry me back to the studio.
I was going to say, by Monday, that's a long time. You are quite generous.
Yeah.
The take-home homework continues. And
I'm used to Football Fridays being on Friday. I figured it was
That's
some
fair.
weekend homework. I forgot this is a Football Friday on a Tuesday.
that is true. It is a special Tuesday edition. And actually, speaking of, well, I just reminded myself of something. We had homework in the first half. We had homework because we had a Football Friday trivia question
That's right.
on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, a Football Friday trivia question. And the trivia question from Mark, as this one is skied high and away, was why is the game of soccer called soccer?
So in Occidental College in 1890, rugby was a very popular sport, and so was the game now called soccer. But they were both looked at as football sports. Rugby wasn't just rugby. Soccer was not just soccer. They called soccer and rugby related to the field. And so soccer was classified as an associate sport and was called a soccer, ASSSO. People decided to shorten it like they did with rugby, and so they changed it to take the ASS off just to have it start with the S and call it soccer. It was spelt in those days SOCKER. Then they changed it back to the double C. So that's how it comes. And football, like Ryan can tell you, because Ryan is Colombian, he's bilingual. Football is called football because FUTBOL is the Hispanic translation for American football.
It is indeed. And if you go towards the European side of things, of course, the English will call it football, spelled the way that Americans spell the gridiron game of football. So direct translation and switching things over towards the Spanish side brings FUTBOL, which then all brings it full circle, Football Fridays on a Tuesday.
Right. Football Fridays on a Tuesday, a lot like playing Sheffield Wednesday on a Saturday.
Are we play-
Wow.
Far side of the park, Fullerton Hornets being attended to. As Joe just says, you know what? The bus stops here.
That's it. It's a long ride home, Joe. It's a long ride home.
Don't worry, I have a lot of time to think about my poor choices in life. So I drive home to Moreno Valley after this game. At least there's no traffic.
That is true.
You know,
Under
if they're-
8 minutes to play.
If they're heading back to Prescott, Arizona, could you just jump on their bus and have them drop you off?
You know, maybe. I can ask.
Technically, it is the correct direction.
Right. They might tell me to get out to downtown Riverside. And then I'll be thumbing my way home. That's a reference that past our generation. I don't think anybody gets it, Ryan.
Well, we do have the original student of Fullerton College. The college was made in 1913. Mark happened to be the first student here at that time and is still
Proud
here
of
at
it.
the college. And he would get that reference. Nathan Giles hopping off the pitch here in just a moment, as he will be attended to by the athletic trainers, and taking his place will be Thomas Gomez. Also joining him on the pitch will be Brandon Acevedo. In what is beginning to be, what we'll say, borderline getting towards chilly outside, and what started on a, we'll say, 85, 86 degree day. In the city of
72. It's not approaching chilly.
Okay, so it is chilly. That's what I'm hearing. It's quite cold.
I could use some chili. I am hungry.
You know, the people in Prescott are saying right now, you guys don't even understand the warm.
Listen, it's a dry heat out there. It's different, Mark.
Okay.
Jacob Vincent dropping it down, trying to get it over to a teammate. Yavapai trailing by 1, looking to get themselves not only back in this game on the score sheet, but they have had plenty of momentum here in the second half to get themselves on the board. Jacob Vincent talking to the official after the foul, and Fullerton College might see another Hornet attended to. That is not the case here, as running this one off will be David Garcia. Coach Greg Aviles and Coach Kenny Castellanos over to our left-hand side. On the near side of the touchline, they are trying to direct traffic and decide where this ball is going to go. It floats high into the air, goes over towards Kyle Sherman. Sherman sees that one go off of a Rough Rider and out, and Sherman will have to throw this one in. So the Hornets with the ball and under 5 minutes left to go in the overall counted side of things. That's right, we are entering the 85th minute, if my math is correct. So we will still have additional time opportunities coming up in just a little bit. Quick runner that goes out towards the center of the park. Rough Riders can't get to it. It is taken over by the Hornets, and finally it is checked all the way down by Max Ron. Ron sees this one out, swung away by Ionita.
Great defense with that header.
Yeah, crowned over there by Yole, who has had a pretty good afternoon so far. You know, Yole has been presented with 4 opportunities that he was directly responsible for. And in all 4 cases, he has come up golden.
This has been a good little survey of the complete package of the Hornets on the pitch, I kind of think, Ryan. First half, I think, was defined by their attacking 3, them being in their attacking 3rd, taking shots on goal, that sort of thing. And I feel like the second half, their defenses really kind of came through, because Yavapai came out of the half a different team almost, or adjusting to what Fullerton College was trying to do on the pitch. And we've seen Fullerton not on their heels so much, but we've seen them having to react to Yavapai trying to throw it into a higher gear.
And that's the thing with the Rough Riders. Coach Hauser has them working pretty well in this second half, especially the last 20, 25 minutes, where they get an opportunity to try and get that one back. Quick turnover by the Hornets almost leads to more, and that will be a foul going against the Rough Riders, as Fullerton will take it back. If you're watching online and thinking to yourself, okay, I gotta ask, guys, you mentioned it's Futbol Fridays multiple times. I'm confused. Why is it Futbol Fridays? I could have sworn that it was a Tuesday.
Did we not miss Or did we miss my Football Friday on a Tuesday is a lot like playing Sheffield Wednesday on a Saturday joke? Come on, guys.
But the reason why it is called Football Fridays on this Tuesday night is because for the rest of the season, Fullerton College, for the most part, will be having all of their home matches on Fridays. So that is a little series that we have here at Fullerton College, as this one is line-driven over towards that left corner and will be a throw-in for the Rough Riders. But our series is called Football Fridays because we join our football family here at Fullerton College on Fridays, get together here at House Scherbeck Field, and take in the opportunity to see Fullerton College men's soccer. Now, it just so happens that the first official Football Friday ended up being on a Tuesday, so it is just a regular home game, but that is why it is the Tuesday edition of Football Fridays. So if you've got your checkerboard or your post-it board that you're trying to connect all the dots to with red string, it all circles back to we will have the rest of the games on Fridays here at home. But since the first home game is a Tuesday, it is Football Fridays on a Tuesday because I like to be cheeky.
So does that mean because we do the other football, but it's on Saturdays, we're changing the name to Scrimmage Saturday?
No, that is just football.
Oh, okay.
That is just gridiron football, Mark.
Okay, all right.
Football
And
Fridays.
the reason why that is, Joe, is not because we can't go to something like that, but because it is very hard for me to think of puns or words that have the same first letter and be creative enough to come up with something different. So it will stay just football.
Well, you said gridiron. I thought maybe we were talking pancakes.
That's a griddle.
Well, it's a gritty iron.
I don't want to eat at your house if that's
Hey,
how you
hey,
wash your
hey.
dishes.
Who washes dishes?
So, like Ryan said, to summarize, Football Fridays, normally played on Fridays, can be played on other days, but the games are not limited to being on a Friday.
Right.
So expect the cheeky Football Friday, but on a
Tuesday.
insert day.
Yeah.
Guys,
And that's the thing. We've got, if I remember correctly, 10 home matches as the Rough Riders get very close to getting an attempt on goal. On that right side of the pitch, going into the box, was Jacob Vincent trying to get that offense that they've been looking for throughout the night. Just ends up getting intercepted, and Fullerton is going to have themselves a throw-in right in front of us. But like we mentioned, if I'm not mistaken, it's 9 or 10 home games overall. So 90% of all the output that we will have on Football Fridays will be on Friday, but today's a Tuesday.
Listen,
It takes a lot of brain power for me to be able to think of words that start with the same letter and make it catchy.
well, it takes a lot of brain power to understand that we're being cheeky and it's a joke.
We are into additional time here, 90 minutes having been played. So Fullerton College and Yavapai battling it down to the last few seconds. It's going to be kicked away by the left-footed Jacob Vincent. Skies it into the air in between 11 different players. It's still there. Here's a chance for the Rough Riders. The shot deflected twice. Fullerton trying to clear it. They finally do get it outside of the box. Rough Riders get another opportunity, headed up into the air. Here's Vincent looking on. Can't get to that in time. Little pushover, little tug. That is going to be an advantage, Fullerton College, and over to the right side. Finally kicked away by Ionita. Lots of scrambling in the last 90 seconds between both sides as the Rough Riders try and get themselves back on the board, or on the board for the first time tonight, I should say. Yavapai back with it. Coach Hauser watching on as the ball gets just past him, and Fullerton will chase on. They've got two guys there, one of which is Brandon Acevedo coming all the way down from his position to help out. Fullerton defending with 10, and on that far side of the park, it is either a foul or a throw-in. The referee is checking on a player to see whether or not he is okay to go. It is a throw-in for Yavapai. And remember, we lost a lot of time during that straight red that we had earlier that was delivered to Mason Gorham. As this is popped into the air, it's going to stay up, and it will go out. Goal kick coming up for Fullerton College. Let's go. Fullerton is the call from the near side of the park, whether it be from the bench or from the stands. Ball gets away from two. It will go to the Rough Riders as that one is played off of Acevedo. And also watching on was Pedro Delgado.
Yeah, we had the grandstands over here shaking with the ruckus that the hometown crowd was creating on this edition of Futbol Fridays.
Taken away. Opportunity now for Juan Luis Quintana. He tries to get it down the middle. Intercepted there by the back line of the Rough Riders. And that will do it for the match.
I was about to say 2 minutes should have passed, and I was going to ask if you thought that was potentially the last drive of the game.
And that will end up being the last one, as Fullerton College with possession is able to get it over towards the left side and finish this one off. So both of these two teams, big time battle here. Mark, you look at Fullerton College. How do you rate tonight's performance if you're looking at it from a coaching perspective?
From a defensive point of view, this was 100% of what you wanted to see against one of the better programs in the nation, a classy soccer team who's got a great deal of power. You throttled them defensively in the first half, and then when they came out and increased their offensive prowess, you shut it down too. You kept it clean. And I tell you, that's what you were looking for. And you know what, Joe? It was the shot up in the corner that it was one of those shots that a beautiful shot, Ryan, one heck of a goal that gives them a 1-0 lead.
Yeah, you kept it clean the first half. It's a shame what happened on the second half of this game, but then Fullerton College able to keep that 1-0 lead, finish the game out with a clean sheet. And I'll send it over to you, Ryan, because it is
time to get you on the road.
It is getting home time.
All righty. Sounds good. We want to thank everyone for joining us, whether online or also in person, here for the first night of Futbol Fridays.
On a Tuesday.
We're going to have everything else coming up on Fridays throughout the rest of the season. Join us September the 16th. We got an alumni game coming up. Lots of big-time content coming up for the Hornets that you'll see at the half. For Corey Nalen, Mark Pavlovich, Joseph Pavlenko, and myself, Ryan Osborne, we thank you for joining us. You've been watching Futbol Fridays on Hornet Radio.